Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today I wanted to go over some of the scripts that have been released for Doctor Who, as well as some of the deleted scenes that we had yesterday as part of Doctor Who Day. If you saw my short, you'll know that I was pretty underwhelmed by Doctor Who Day. I mean, I wasn't expecting the world or the moon on a stick, but it did feel a little bit low-key this year. But we did get some deleted scenes, and I want to go through those because some of them are quite interesting alongside some of the scripts as well. So yeah, just sit back, relax, gonna be a very chill video, and let's dive right in. The script I was most interested in was definitely the Reality War script. Quite obviously, I was curious to see what they would release there, particularly towards the ending. Obviously, they haven't released the original ending, but what I find really funny is this bit. So this is just before they land on the unit HQ after Mayday and the reshoots properly start. So it's when the Doctor throws the star certificate back out of the TARDIS, back through the timeline to get to Belinda. So obviously you've got the scene as it plays out on screen. Good. Let me just make sure everything's back in place. He throws levers, chunk the jolt of the TARDIS landing. The Doctor and Belinda heading out of the TARDIS, Ruby just watching them, following slowly, horrified. Don't take too long. I want to see Mars as well, and the moon. Let's walk on the moon. They go through the doors, and it literally just says, omitted, scene within scene 86, omitted, unit ops room, night. The Doctor, Belinda, then Ruby step out the TARDIS. It's landed towards the back of the room. And also in this scene, originally Mel was meant to be there physically, but obviously they couldn't get Bonnie Langford, so we see her stood in the unit ops room as well. But I just find it really funny because obviously we know the reshoots start when the unit ops room scene happens, so it's really funny to just see like this wall-to-wall like omitted. Like, I don't know, it's giving me the vibe of a certain file that might get released soon in the next month or so. If you know, you know. Other things I found interesting about this, again, towards the end, because that's what I'm finding most interesting about this script. In the part with the 13th Doctor, there's a bit where the Doctor comments on the individual Doctor's costumes, but when we actually get to the scene with the 13th Doctor and the 15th Doctor, it says, I've been summoned from the Edge because there's a great big time schism on its way caused by you. So obviously the Edge was something in the Power of the Doctor, which is where all the Doctors go after their regenerations. So that obviously got cut, I'm assuming because it was seen as too complicated and it was easier just to say that she was popped out of her time stream, which I don't mind as a change, but it's interesting that originally as he wrote it, it was the Edge, which would have tied into Power of the Doctor and like that Chris Chibnall thing that he introduced, which I do think is a pretty cool thing that he introduced. I quite like that as a concept. But the other thing I find really interesting is right towards the end, and obviously it shows the regeneration scene, you know, joy to the world, he's regenerating. Two interesting things of note here. One, it says, and a face appears, a person wreathed in miraculous gold and light, who says, oh hello, end of episode 8. So obviously this confirms that at the time the script was written, they had no idea it was going to be Billie Piper. Like, the idea was literally someone appears at the end of this glowy scene, and obviously they landed on Billie, presumably because it was difficult to get a new actor to go, hey, can you be the Doctor for like 5 seconds, with no actual like kind of concrete plans of anything going forward. But the other thing that I find interesting is the date that this says. So it says season 2 episode 8 Blue Amends 30th of September 2024, which would imply that this scene was written in late September. This regeneration scene was written in late September, which I do not buy for a second, because I think it was October that Ncuti Gatwa was talking about filming season 3. So they were all under the assumption that like there would be a season 3 with Ncuti. So I do not buy at all that this is the accurate date at which this scene was written. And I think it's highly likely that they've changed this around. But at this point, I'm almost like, why even bother releasing the scripts at this point? Because it's so obvious that like this wasn't the script as it was originally planned out because of how much has been omitted. Now, in fairness, it is normal for them to omit some scenes from these scripts that didn't make it to air. But when you've got a whole block where we all know the reshoot started that just says omitted, it sort of gives the game away a little bit. And the same could be true of the deleted scenes on YouTube, which were very funny because the comments are all basically asking the question that I am of, whoa, all the deleted scenes, the reality war, hold my beer. Sometimes I think there's something missing. Where's the party scene from the reality war? I'd like to see that. Yeah, so they did not show any of the scenes from the reality war, you know, that we want to see, which we know were filmed, because they still want to go with the narrative that this was always the plan. And I think that is the narrative they are going to stick to, you know, till the end, basically. But going over these scenes, first one is just a scene of Ruby at Christmas with her family, getting called by the Doctor at the hotel, but he calls and she doesn't pick up, and obviously he's quite sad about that. The next scene is really nothing exciting. It's literally just Belinda walking out of the hospital. This scene was interesting because it spoke a little bit about Belinda's faith a little bit, which I found interesting.
When you're born Hindu, you're given this horoscope.
The Jardigam. I know.
What, are you gonna tell me it's all rubbish?
Just the opposite, honey. I believe in anything.
Okay. Do you know what mine said? She will travel.
So there you go, that's the context of the thing about the Jardigam, which we spoke about in the previous deleted scenes video when it got put up on the Doctor Who ARG thing. So the Jardigam is like something in her, you know, it's like basically like her version of like horoscope that said, you will travel. So it kind of lent into the Doctor's narrative that he was telling Belinda that like, oh, we're destined to be together. There's also this scene where he tells her directly that like he's a Time Lord as well. I do wish more of these quieter scenes actually made it in.
I'm detective.
No, I swear, I was just passing by. But the funny thing is, my species, with the two hearts, were called the Time Lords.
Oh, your lordship.
Grazie.
Time Lords. That sounds impressive. Can't they get us out of here?
Well...
See, just little moments like that, though, I wish there were more little, like, character moments like that just, you know, give us the time to, like, hold the action for a bit. Just let us learn about these characters, because those are the best scenes that I've seen in the deleted scenes that, like, they've been released. Obviously, this scene we've covered before. This was part of the ARG. This is the extended version of the initial kind of, like, Belinda going into the TARDIS, reacting to it, and then the Doctor obviously saying, like, we're destined to be together, I've met your ancestor, and her basically saying all that stuff, and her saying about how empty the TARDIS is, and, you know, how that reflects on the Doctor as a person. I've done a whole video on that before, so I'll leave that in a card in the corner if you haven't seen it. But yeah, this scene was really good as well, and again, kind of shows the character stuff that we were missing out on. Lux, this one's only small. It's literally just an extra scene of the Doctor saying that this stuff is all very, very old before going to meet Reginald Pye to talk about, you know, what is Lux? What is this creature? I thought that maybe there would be a reference to Missing Doctor Who on one of these, but I don't think it does. I can't read what that says. It says Mr. Does that say Mr. Smith? I don't know. I don't think it says Doctor Who. It would be fun if it was like, if they'd done an Easter egg where it was like, I don't know, the Savages or something, even though it would have made sense because this is in America, but you know. This scene I found interesting. It's Lucky Day, so there was nothing for the well, which I find interesting, but this one I found interesting because it's Conrad and Ruby kind of dated, but it reveals that Ruby actually had a job in this entire series that wasn't UNIT.
Does it last?
So are you allowed to do this? You know, hang out with normal people?
Yeah, no, I can do what I like. I don't work for UNIT, I teach piano to kids.
You're musical?
Yeah.
Well, that is such a coincidence, because I am amazing on the triangle.
So there you go, like she was a piano teacher for kids. Again, like little character moments like this that, again, aren't like massive on their own. They're not massive scenes on their own, but cutting out these little bits bit by bit by bit, in the end, it just makes them as characters so much less well-rounded. And I wish that there was more time in these episodes for moments like these. I think it would have made the characters feel so much more fleshed out and the overall world and everything going on feel more kind of tangible. Because I think that is something that this era really lacks, is like RTD1, something that's so good about it is the world building, and you know all of these family members of all these companions in detail. You know every aspect of their lives. You know exactly, how they would react to certain situations. And I think that Russell is still capable of doing that, but so much of it has just ended up completely on the cutting room floor. This scene we've also covered before. This was in the deleted scenes in the ARG as well. It's Conrad meeting Ruby's family for the first time, and they're all very curious about him, and Cherry Sunday flirts with him a little bit as well. I'm really gutted we didn't get to see more of this family unit, honestly. I think that they were some of the better characters in this era, and I think that Russell has always been quite good at doing these little family things. So I think it's kind of sad that that wasn't really focused on as much as I'd have liked it to in this era. This one is just him meeting up with his mate before the plan, where I'd assumed that this would have revealed earlier on that he was the baddie, because if you look at it...
The aliens are a smokescreen. They're using their tech to spy on us, to track us, to control and manipulate us. Why else would they keep it so secret?
So I'm assuming that was basically just to reveal to the audience Conrad's motives before Ruby does. But to be honest, I think the shock reveal of it in the actual episode works better. So in this case, I think that it's a scene that was, fine to cut. I think the scene of them finding the film reel in Lux, and that hospital scene where it's just Belinda walking out the hospital, all those made sense to go. But there are some of these here that I would have liked to stay in. This is really cool. We get to see another story in the Story in the Engine, where the story window, or whatever it's called in that, gets used again, and we actually see another story be told on it. I was actually really surprised that this didn't get used more in the story, like we didn't see more of this, because I really like the artwork and stuff. So it's a shame to know that there was more stuff for that didn't get used. However, at the same time, there was already quite a lot of dialogue in Story in the Engine as it is. It was already quite a dense script anyway, so I can kind of understand why one of these would be cut, but still nice to know that there was more stories for that as well. These next couple just show sort of the people being ejected out into space and Ncuti Gatwa flying around with Rylan. Obviously, this would have been final special effects, which is why it looks kind of clunky looking, but that's obviously because it's not done yet, obviously, because it wasn't used. But yeah, as you can see, a little bit goofy looking, but there you go. So that's that. This is probably my favourite scene that we've been shown that was cut. Obviously, this is Wish World. The Doctor and Belinda, or I guess John Smith and Belinda, put Poppy to bed and say, oh, it's May Day tomorrow. And then we get an earlier scene where John, or the Doctor, expresses doubt. And there's this really interesting scene between the two, which I'll play out.
Sweetheart, you work so hard.
It isn't that. It isn't that. It's... life. Isn't it exhausting? Every day. Today was... I had doubts today.
No, you didn't.
I couldn't help it. No. I had a thought, and then I wondered, and then I couldn't stop myself from thinking.
No, you didn't.
I couldn't stop myself
No, you
from thinking
didn't.
about it.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Okay.
So I found that interesting because it showed that the Doctor did have more doubts of the Wish World when it was going on, which is something I always wondered with the story itself, because he doesn't really seem to have any doubts up until, right towards the end of the story, which I don't buy that the Doctor wouldn't have doubts more so than that, given that, he's the Doctor. And it's interesting how they play this here, that basically every time he does doubt, Belinda goes very doting on him and becomes very like, no, you didn't, starts kissing him and stuff. It's kind of interesting as well, because obviously 15 is implied to, kind of not swing that way. So it's interesting. It's almost like her reinforcing that, you know, sort of stereotypical relationship kind of snaps him back into not doubting anymore. I thought that was interesting. It's also interesting given that I remember seeing people who shipped these two, so I guess for those people, there's some material there, I guess. I wasn't one of them, but you do you. And then the last two, there's not really much to say. It's just kind of Belinda wondering where John's gone after obviously he leaves in the reality war. And then after that, it's another scene where, you know, it's just Belinda asking whether the Doctor's going to be okay and stuff like that. And whether she'll see him again, and basically saying that Poppy is an adventure in herself. Which, and here you can see where Belinda has just transformed into a completely different character from where she starts.
Cartoons or blown up by mad time ladies. I can't do that to her. And anyway, every single day on Earth with Poppy is a great big adventure in itself. Your life is calm in comparison.
Yeah. Just wish I had some of that madness.
I do like this line, I do wish I had some of that madness, because this is a recurring theme of the Doctor, especially within Russell's work, the idea of the one adventure the Doctor can never have is the family life. And obviously in the reality war, he's the closest he's ever been to getting that, and obviously he doesn't get it in the end. So I do like that as a character beat for the Doctor, but like, man, what did they do to you, Belinda? What happened? Like, oh, it's such a shame. But honestly, of all of these, like, you know, a couple of them I would cut. Like, I don't need to see, obviously, this scene of her doubting where John Smith's gone. This scene is really interesting. I think this should have stayed in. This one, yeah, it's just some effects of them floating around. The story, the extra story was cool, but I can understand why it was cut. This, I think it's interesting that they were probably going to reveal Conrad earlier than they did, judging by this. But I'm kind of glad they cut it, because I think the reveal works better in the story itself. Conrad meeting the family, I think this would have been cool just to see more of Ruby's family life, because, as I said, Ruby's family are some of the better written, like, sort of side characters in this era, and I would have liked to have seen more of them. And I think Cherry's just very fun. The actress who plays her is very fun. I think I would have also kept a couple of scenes of them actually enjoying each other's company as well, rather than, like, us kind of just inferring that they like each other for, you know, reasons. Like, I think that would have been nice, especially because it fleshes out some of what Ruby's been doing post the Doctor. The scene of Lux isn't really necessary. This Robot Revolution scene is just really, really good. Some really good character stuff, but I've covered that in a previous video. Same goes for this one. And then you get this one, Joy to the World, which is a nice moment, but not really essential if you ask me. And then obviously, you know, Belinda just walking out of a hospital, which, you know, is not necessary. So overall, some decent deleted scenes in here, but it's so obvious that they're not going to show us the ones we wanted. You know, the ones that we want to see, they are not going to show us, you know, which is a grave shame, but to be expected. Like, I wasn't actually expecting them to show us the original scenes, because they have firmly cemented the narrative that this was always the plan, despite the fact that, as I pointed out earlier, and as Doctor Who Productions just pointed out, the Reality War Regeneration script was completed in September 9th, 2024. Shooting hour on Graham Norton, November 11th, 2024. It's all going well. We did the second series this year. The Christmas special is coming up, and we're filming a third series next year. So someone is telling Porky Pies. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know why they're even trying to, like, cover it up at this point when, like, it's so obviously not the case. Maybe it's a contractual thing, but at that point, why even release the scripts when we all know full well they weren't the original scripts? Like, we all know this. We all know this is not the original script. So I don't know what the point is in trying to, like, gaslight us into thinking that it is, because, like, no one thinks it is. No one thinks that this was the original, you know, season 2 finale. Like, no one buys it. So the fact that they keep trying to double down with these little things, these little, you know, like, you know, scripts and deleted scenes, being like, no, this was the final vision. Like, come on, you've got Carol Ann Ford and Bonnie Langford in interviews saying what they filmed was completely different. Like, oh, I don't know. I guess we're just never going to see it. It's going to be one of those things that I am just going to have to accept, but it's probably always going to annoy me. But let me know in the comments below what you guys think. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.